Welcome to another edition of the LOTD pod, Between the Buttons. It's the second Between the Buttons, and on this little segment, we're going to be discussing Valentine's Day songs, but not the most conventional way of looking at Valentine's Day. We are going to be putting together playlists of our favorite songs of unrequited love.
And who is this we, Sean?
Me, Flick, and you, Richard. Richard, of course, who gave us our amazing theme song, "The Time Worm," from his album,
from my new album, With Clairvoyance. You can find it wherever fine records are streamed. So yeah, thank you, Flick, and yeah, this is a fun show. Between the Buttons, Valentine's Day edition. And Flick, do you want to tell our listeners why we've each made our playlist 45 minutes for those of us that maybe didn't roll through that era?
Well, that was your innovation. It's each of our playlists are our own side of a mixtape. So if you want, you could record this onto a mixtape, get out your TDK 90, and side one is Richard, and side B is me, and it's our individual takes on the mixtape for the person not so lucky in love this year on Valentine's Day.
Yeah. So for those youngsters who may be listening right now,
TDK, explain the TDK 90.
Yeah, so for a lot of kind of maladjusted, obsessive rock and roll nerds like myself out in the suburbs, I learned how to make really good mixtapes because I wasn't really good at talking to girls. So this is kind of my recreation of if I were to have to make that mixtape, these are some of the cool tunes that would be on it.
Yeah, I remember I remember making a playlist for an object of my affection one time, heavy in Flaming Lips, and yeah, I guess the rest of it will come to me later. I remember I let it off with Flaming Lips.
All right, yeah, probably a good idea.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll get back to that in a moment. But yeah, it's Songs of Unrequited Love. We have a Spotify page where you can find our playlists and listen along as we talk about them if you wish. That is, if you search LOTD Pod on Spotify, you should find that, and it might also lead you to our podcast. If you don't already get our podcast on Spotify, but you use Spotify, that would be an option for you, as well as iTunes and many other podcast sources.
And my portion is called Side A, Quite Unrequited, and this is for a lot of kind of more indie-minded people. This may be a little bit of a cliche, but you got to start it out with a heart-wrenching Richard Thompson song. Am I right? Am I right?
And in your case, I would say definitely.
Yeah.
Because you did.
Because I did. And there's so many to choose from. One of the all-time just tearjerkers of Richard Thompson and Richard Linda Thompson's discography for me is a song From Galway to Graceland. And it's just a beautiful tune about a woman running away from her stable domestic situation and flying from the west coast of Ireland to West Tennessee to be with the king being Elvis Presley, and kneeling by his grave until they let her away. It's you can't get any more unrequited than showing up at that grave at Graceland.
Yeah, and it is a song that almost could have been about my great aunt, who was very obsessed with Elvis, except for the part about the tattoos, because I don't think she would have ever gone so far.
You don't know for sure.
It's possible, yeah, yeah, but she was very definitely Elvis obsessed.
El Rey, as we call him in our household.
And why is that?
El Rey, the king.
Okay, okay, all right, gotcha.
So yeah, got to start out with one like one of these just emotional barn burners from Richard Thompson. Any number you could pick from, Waltzings for Dreamers kind of came up on my short list, and 1952 Vincent Black Lightning. I feel like I've definitely at some point in my life tried to have someone listen to that when giving them a mixtape.
Cool. My mixtape, my side of the mixtape, starts off with a band from your neck of the woods, San Francisco, the Flamin' Groovies, and I'll Cry Alone. Not a British invasion band, but they definitely have that sound, especially on this. It has a really awesome 12-string guitar intro, and goes into just that kind of British invasion sort of feel to it, where you have the use of the minor chords in a pop context, and "I'll Cry Alone" kind of gives you an idea of the unrequited love aspect of this song. Just definitely a downer. So starting off on a big down note on my end.
It's a big upbeat down note,
It
and
is.
I love that song so much. And we've talked about this a little bit, but I have to admit that I'm not as familiar with Flaming Groovies as I should be. But after you clued me into this band just recently, definitely went down the eBay rabbit hole. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, I haven't really pulled the trigger on anything yet, but thank you for that.
Yeah, I do. I do. I have some vinyl actually that I got going back to a mutual favorite haunt of ours, the record collector in Iowa City.
Yeah, rest in
Uh,
peace, Kirk.
yeah, way back in the day. I think the first Flamin' Groovies album I ever owned was bought at the record collector way back in the day.
And if you're listening to this and you're anywhere near Iowa City, like within like 3.5 hours, I'd say. Record collector is still a great place to be, and yeah, Sean and I met in Iowa City in college, and record collector was central to like so many different cool friendships that I made there. And this is kind of pre cell phone for a lot of people, so you could just kind of go into that shop most time of day and like bump into one of your like really close friends who are just there like nerding around.
Yeah, and the album that this comes from is Shake Some Action. So Shake Some Action, for anybody out there that isn't familiar with the Flamin' Groovies already, Shake Some Action, a big power pop touchstone. So one of the definite landmarks of power pop music is that track and this album as well.
Well, I love it, and yeah, and I like that your side of the tape is kind of trending towards, aside from that Flaming Groovies song. I'm looking ahead a little bit, but I think you're kind of going a bit to the archive, and I'm kind of a little bit more skimming the Pitchfork kind of era
I
playlist.
don't like referring to it as the Pitchfork era.
I just copyrighted that, so.
Okay, well.
But yeah, the kind of newer indie rock and college radio tunes is kind of what I ended up leaning on, and one of my favorite albums in rotation, and one of the coolest tunes for me from said album. This is second up. I have "I See You" by Phoebe Bridgers from her album Punisher, and it's just a chilling, awesome tune that builds and really highlights one of her many strengths for me is she's such a great writer and uh, talking about when when you talk about unrequited love, I think we kind of need to set the goalpost that yeah, there are those tunes like that you're interested in someone, they don't know about you, they're not interested in you. And then there are other tunes where it's coming from the opposite direction. So um you're the object of someone else's affection, maybe you're pushing them away. And that's what this tune is about, which is really cool. There's a great line in this song about like uh you used to light me up, now I can't even get you to play the drums. And that's such a an interesting way to talk about someone who doesn't put any enthusiasm into the relationship. And among indie rock people, your significant other often ends up playing on your tune. So I love this song, I love the record. And Flick, did you have a chance to see Phoebe Bridgers on SNL?
I still haven't. I've heard so much about it this week. I'll have to find some time this weekend to watch it. But she, I don't have the footage, that I've seen to compare it to Pete Townsend. I don't know how it rates against the all-time, I think, king of the smashed up guitar. But a lot of talk about it. Probably a shame that there isn't more talk about her album last year, because it was one of my top 5 albums of the year, and I think deserved many accolades. But
I think
it's
it probably deserves a Grammy nomination. Do you agree?
yeah, I hardly pay attention to that, but yeah,
Just
certainly.
so you know, it's been nominated for a Grammy.
Oh, okay, okay. I guess that
A
was your way
little
of putting
known
it in.
album, but
Yeah,
but yeah,
never
she
been to.
smashed that guitar. There were sparks, but I've seen her play a couple live sets now on formats like KCRW and that kind of thing. And um, uh, I thought it was kind of weird that she was playing maybe even like a Jackson or something. And
Mm.
then when she started smashing it, I was like, "Oh, this makes sense." Like, you shouldn't bring like a nice Telecaster and smash it. You should bring like the
Exactly.
back of the closet metal guitar that your old roommate left behind or something.
Yeah, you're not going to do that to a Rickenbacker or
Please don't
yeah.
even
Yeah,
go
so
there.
so maybe that was the clue all along. So smart. She's very smart, and along those lines, one thing that I think put her in my good graces, if that's for lack of a better term, from the beginning, is that the title of her debut album was "Stranger in the Alps," and it's just to me one of the best references possible.
This is what
And
happens, Larry. This is
that's
what
right.
happens when you meet a stranger in the Alps.
For fans of The Big Lebowski who may have never seen the TV version, what it references is the scene with Walter Sobchak, John Goodman, and Larry Sellers, and what was overdubbed in place of what he actually said was, "This is what happens when you meet a stranger in the Alps."
Epic, yeah. And like I mentioned during one of our earlier conversations, those kind of misheard or like awkwardly shoehorned in things like that, when you hear them as a songwriter, if you're if you're a hack like me, it's just gold,
Mm,
and you look through the discography of like Gotta Buy Voices, for instance, and you're like, oh yeah, It's like 90% misheard stuff that ends up sounding to you like poetry when you're just, trying to get the check at the restaurant or something. Back when we all did that.
Yeah, yeah, and Guided by Voices, they do have a lot of that, and then also just a lot of the references, the good references. Like last year, there was a Guided by Voices song, Andre the Hawk, which people that don't follow baseball the way I do probably don't get that one, but Andre Dawson, who used to play for the Cubs as well as the Montreal Expos and Red Sox, Marlins. He was nicknamed the Hawk, so it was a nice little. It's not really a song about him, but it's a nice little tribute to have
I
that song title.
Oh, I get it now.
Yeah, right.
Everything is clear. Yeah, really cool, really cool tune. If you haven't checked out Phoebe Bridgers, definitely do.
Yeah.
And what's next on your side of the tape? What do we got?
Okay. Well, another aspect of another angle on Requited Love is when maybe everything was good, then it all goes wrong. Good loving gone bad, as Paul Rogers once said. And my song for this is not Bad Company, but Bill Withers with The Same Love That Made Me Laugh from Adjustments, apostrophe adjustments as in adjustments. Yeah, I'm just going to pull out a lyric from this that I think is especially appropriate. You think of love as sitting on a mountain. Think of it as being on a great big rock. When you think before you start to roll it down, because once you start it, you can't make it stop. I've given all I have to give, and if you don't want me, I don't want to live.
Wow.
Yeah, uh, tough stuff. Tough stuff for Unrequited Love.
He has got that great line in this song about I was weeping like a willow. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Good metaphor. Apropos of nothing, I grew up with a weeping willow tree in my parents' home. In our backyard, we had a weeping willow tree, so maybe that's why the song hits home so heavily with me.
I think that's right. And kind of building on your apropos to any close pals out there, I just want to reference Weeping Willow Gets Bangs by The Onion.
Little sidebar.
Little sidebar, but little Google bomb.
That's right.
Because no one ever searches for The Onion on Google. That's a joke too. Yeah, Bill Withers, great artist, great tune. That's a funky song. I really like that a lot. And my next tune, I just want to say that if this band was around when I was kind of a maladjusted teen, they would have been huge for me. And that band is The National. So we've got Anyone's Ghost from their album High Violet. And one of the many lines from this song that is just really cool is about you go out at night with your headphones on again, and if you're like a moody person, maybe in your 20s or a teenager, you do that sort of thing, and you know being really in touch with your mood through music, and specifically hopefully a old school tape Walkman. I'm digging it.
And this kind of reminds me a little bit, like, actually, and this might sound completely insane, but it's just the way things happen sometimes. Like, High Violet was an album I liked quite a bit, but it also turns out that this is kind of where I lost touch with the National. This was like the last National album I really listened to.
No, you didn't get into Trouble Will Find Me, Sean?
No, and it's not to say that it
Ah,
won't still happen, but it just it just happens, like I was keeping up with the National right up to this point, and this is kind of where it dropped off for me. And for no particular reason.
Well,
It
if you
just
like
happened.
this album, if you like High Violet, my intuition is that High Violet and Trouble Will Find Me were written and recorded at the same time as one big batch. So if you like the vibe on this album and the songwriting, it's really super. And I don't think they've really gone to that place again over the last 2 or 3 records, but those two are just gold.
Yeah, I'll have to find some time to catch up with the National.
Yes, you'll have to.
But like I was a pretty early adapter to that band, and then I don't know. It just sometimes you disconnect for no particular reason.
Yeah, I guess we kind of came at that band from opposite places because I didn't really know a lot about them until I went to go see them on a bill with the Walkmen, and wow, that's quite a bill. Walkmen kind of era around Lisbon, and both bands just I'd kind of known the Walkmen from seeing them at Gabe's Oasis in college, but then they went away and came back as like this juggernaut, of a
Mhm.
band over for their last 3 records, I'd say. So yeah, wow, glad I got to see that.
Yeah, and I guess a little sidebar here. I saw the Walkmen at the Hideout Festival in Chicago a few years ago, and just the sound that they have it just seemed perfect for an outdoor setting. Like it's just kind of the perfect band to see outdoor, where that guitar sound could be really big, and the vocals could really be big. Like there's just something really like I don't know. It's I don't know. To me, it would be much less appropriate to see them indoors in like a smaller venue.
Yeah, I've seen him at Gabe's, I've seen him at the Fillmore, I've seen him at the Independent, and maybe one other place. And then Hamilton Lighthouser has a string of just really excellent solo records that follow the breakup of the Walkmen.
Yeah, and yeah, I've kept up with them pretty well. Like actually, it was the last Walkman album. I really would have to say was my favorite. Ended up being my favorite one.
Huh.
So I was a little bit disappointed that they broke up, but those things happen, I guess.
They do. Speaking of breaking up, Long Time by Linda Ronstadt.
That's right. It's although this isn't really a breakup song. It's more like you never even noticed me kind of song. And the this is by Linda Ronstadt from the album Silk Purse, which was from 1970, so very early on in her career. Um, and I have to look this up again. It's it's an amazing song that is written by somebody that I to this day am totally unfamiliar with, uh, and written by Gary Wright, and not wasn't Gary Wright also Dreamweaver? It's not that
You're asking the wrong guy.
at any rate, it's not the same guy. I don't know anything about him, but this song is just amazing. It's just soul crushing, heart rending. Um,
Yeah, you're really not holding back in your. I mean, you start out on kind of a fast clip, but yeah, this one's a real downer in a good way. And I want to say how much I like contemporary artists using the harpsichord.
yeah, well, yeah, it's very subtle here, but yeah,
Can we turn up the harpsichord?
yeah, and I guess that goes back to the Stone Ponies days too, because different drums certainly prominently featured the harpsichord. So that just kind of stuck with Linda Ronstadt, I guess. for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, beautifully arranged. The music, like the strings and everything on that, just perfect and haunting and depressing, but in a, I mean that in a positive way, if that's possible.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Um, just like her vocals are so amazing, but if you took the vocals out of it, I think the music alone would be enough to just make one ball up in a corner and cry their eyes out.
And I feel like that's where maybe you and I kind of differ in strategy with these kind of mixtapes. Like, um, I like it, and it's sad, but I think the next tune, especially, I think you can have really sad songs that sound really upbeat.
Yeah.
So, I will transition from your Linda Ronstadt to uh, 100,000 Fireflies by the Magnetic Fields, which is on surface you'd hear it maybe in an elevator, and you'd think it's like, oh, it's like Katrina and the Waves, something like that. But no, it's really indie, strange tune, lots of vintage keyboards and drum machines on it, and it's out of all the lovelorn Magnetic Fields tunes they have, I think this is one of the most poignant in the the chorus of I'm afraid of the dark without you close to me. Like, wow, that really hits you. And for anyone who's kind of maybe dissuaded from listening to Magnetic Fields because of Stephen Merritt's kind of monotone singing style. This is from the first two records in which Susan Enway does the singing. And this is, I believe, the last track on Distant Plastic Trees. You can often find Distant Plastic Trees and the first album, The Wayward Bus, on one compilation.
I told you I'd get back to you on this one, and I do have to say I like her vocals a lot more than Stephen Merritt's.
Like I said, yeah, it happens.
The mix of it is still a little bit of a challenge to me. It's I can't remember like I can't pick it apart because it's not fresh in my mind. But parts of the mix are just too obnoxious.
Ouch.
It is, like there's still something, but it is more likable, I think, with her vocals.
Yeah, it's late 80s, early 90s indie studio recording. Uh, Everyone's a producer apparently.
Right? Yeah.
But I think it's got a ton of charm. And if so back when I was a kid and trying to make people listen to these tapes, part of the appeal was to just like, not only is it a cool song, but it's something you're not hearing on the radio. Something you got to really dig around for. And this tune, I really had to dig around for it because I heard it originally as a Superchunk song from one of their B-side collections, and then looked at the songwriting credits, and then kind of started putting the picture together that Merge Records, run by
Mac
Superchunk,
McCon.
Mac and Laura, yeah, from Superchunk, is also was the longtime record label for Magnetic Fields. Mystery solved, but it took some effort, and I think things on a ton of charm when you had to give them that much effort back in the day.
Well, and how is the Super Chunk version?
It's loud, but it's really fun. I mean, I think it's recorded at like a festival or something, and yeah, it's got to be so much fun to play that song and to sing it because it's such a um, cathartic rock song when you rearrange it.
All right. Well, my next, I'm still on the trek downward on my the trajectory of my
Yeah.
side of the mixtape is still on the downward slope. Daniel Johnston, Some Things Last a Long Time, from the album 1990, which, go figure, it was recorded in 1990. Uh, yeah, it is going downward. It will pick up. There will be a second wave here.
I've listened through these, and I think that this is the perigee of sadness.
I might have to look up Perigee, but
The deepest part.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably correct. Daniel Johnston definitely was somebody that had to be included in this theme. Uh,
Rest,
he,
rest in peace.
yeah, exactly. He, spent a lot of his career, a lot of his life dealing with unrequited love. He had a longtime crush, Lori Allen, who really was kind of his muse. Um, but definitely an unrequited love. So there are a lot of Daniel Johnston songs that could have easily made the list. The reason why this one does is I think, on top of everything else, it's one of his best recordings. It's not, there's not some, this isn't a complicated arrangement or anything like that. It's just really, it's mostly him and his piano, and uh, just the way the piano's recorded with the echo on it. And I don't know what the chords are, but it just, the chords themselves are just very eerie and haunting and sad, and yeah, it's just definitely, to me, it's one of those songs where it really, captured. He was able to really capture what he was feeling.
Yeah, I don't think he's holding back, and I don't think he's pretending. And yeah, those like really echoey or like reverb drenched chords. I think you're getting some cool sus2 and sus4 chords maybe in there. Um, to insert some nerdery into our heartfelt discussion.
Always welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, really cool tune. Thank you for, like I said, I've done my homework. I've listened through your tunes, and they bummed me out in a good way.
Yeah, well, I listened to yours, and they didn't exactly lift me up either.
Yeah, goal achieved, man.
But the mood
Uh,
the mood is different. I will say for sure.
yeah, and I think going back to our earlier discussion about the goalposts, there's the you're pushing someone away, you've been pushed away, and then there is kind of that whole subgenre of these kind of tunes about like, I see you around, I don't know who you are, and I'm going to kind of imagine something about that. Maybe like imagine something about what could be. And so I think Downtown Train is really cool by Tom Waits from his 1985 album Rain Dogs. Um, and it's about a lot of things, but kind of the central vignette for me on this is you know uh, seeing the Brooklyn girls going into Manhattan on the train, and wondering, if that's something that could happen for the narrator of the tune. And this was a big hit for Tom Waits. And I was trying to place who plays guitar on it, um, and did a little bit of research, and the kind of signature, um, crackle kind of guitar, the chiming guitar on this track is either Robert Quine, who we know from playing with a bunch of really cool 70s New York bands like Richard Hell and the Voids,
Yeah,
and
late and later Lou Reed.
Matthew Sweet too,
Oh yeah.
um, and G.E. Smith, who I don't know a lot about, but I guess was the band leader on Saturday Night Live for a long time, kind of arcing back to the Phoebe Bridgers discussion. But yeah, it's a wonderful tune, and you know, I've always had, uh, you know, sometimes you hear a lyric that's good enough, and it just sticks in your brain. And there's that lyric about how, you know, if you wave your hand, they'll scatter like crows, like thorns without a rose, something like that. Anyway, I'm mangling it. If you're listening, I'm real sorry. I'm just down the street, so when this pandemic thing is over, let's chat.
Okay, and yeah, this song made me realize. So it didn't lead me to uh, putting a song on this playlist, but I have a much longer personal unrequited love playlist that this song made me think of "Hope That I Don't Fall in Love with You" from Closing Time, which I added to my big playlist. So I guess consider that a bonus track, maybe, I don't know, but I think that that's a really good song for this theme.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things where I try not to mix my early Tom Waits with mid to late period Tom Waits. So I think the demarcation point is, you know, probably somewhere around Small Change or Foreign Affairs. But if I had to pick any, you could definitely do such a long show with the same theme, but just Tom Waits songs. Blue Valentines by Tom Waits from the album of his same name, one of my favorites from 1978, where you know, he kind of goes from being like a kind of almost a Laurel Canyon kind of singer songwriter into being a really interesting theatrical narrative lyric writer. And I think that this is kind of the pivot album. Um, Romeo is Bleeding, Red Shoes by the Drugstore, and the opening it with the cover of Somewhere from West Side Story. So Tom Waits has a, you know, surprisingly long and varied discography, and this one gets overlooked in my opinion. So do yourself a favor, listen to Blue Valentine by Tom Waits, and then, as discussed earlier, Trouble Will Find Me by The National.
Yeah. Okay, well, my next one. This is where things well, things are still down, but building back up maybe. My next song is by Cracker from the Golden Age, and it's called Big Dipper. My favorite David Lowery song, and I love David Lowery. I love Camper Van Beethoven, love Cracker. This is my favorite song that he ever did, though, and you have a little added insight to this song, being from the area that you're from,
That's
or
right. Yeah.
living in the area that you're from.
So I'm in Oakland, California, which is just down the street from Santa Cruz, where my mom lives, and I've seen, yeah, I've liked Cracker for a long time and Camper Van Beethoven, and they often end up on the same bill together. One such occasion was seeing them play on the Santa Cruz boardwalk, right by the ocean, and you're seeing the band with your shoes off on the beach, and it's such a great place to have seen them play this song specifically. David Lowery stopped the or before the tune, he gestured to the roller coaster behind us, which is the Giant Dipper, and said, "You know, I tried to fit Giant Dipper into the tune, but it just had too many syllables, so it became Big Dipper and the title of the song." And I also want to, so remind me, what's the line in here about Monterey?
Yeah, so the line is, from the top you can see Monterey, or think about San Jose. Um, yeah, so until you filled me in on this, I didn't really know what he was referencing there. But apparently, if you're on top of the roller coaster, at the peak of the roller coaster, that's where you can see Monterey.
That's true. I've seen it from this very roller coaster, which is one of the like real classic, like I want to say like 1940s wooden roller coasters, really iconic. And I want to reel something back in from this lyric too. I think the complete lyric is something about you can see Monterey, you can think about San Jose, but it isn't that pleasant.
Right. Yeah.
For all of our listeners out there, when times are normalized, visit San Jose. It's very pleasant. I love going to San Jose. It's a cool little big town, and it, good people, good food, cool little downtown art museum. Great place. San Jose, California.
Maybe not so high on David Lowery's list.
Well, he doesn't have to come with us, just like, if he wants to be that way, he can just stay wherever he stays.
Maybe you can get Johnny Hickman to go along.
Perhaps.
They might feel very differently about San Jose.
Yeah, so cool tune. Thanks for reminding me of that one. I haven't listened to Golden Age in a while. And I think it's a good kind of transition into Galaxy 500, another band that you probably had on the same college radio playlists at the same time as Camper Von Beethoven. When Will You Come Home is one of my favorite tunes by Galaxy 500. And this one's really fun too. This is, about someone waiting for their special someone to come home, and maybe it's later than it should be, and maybe they don't know where that person is, but I kind of think of it as when my wife and I go out to drop things off at the library down the street, and we come home and the cats are just like, "Where were you?" So I think that there are a lot of situations where maybe you can feel like that as a person. And Dean Warham's voice in Galaxy 500 is a good articulation of that, whatever you call it. Like, I don't know, like he kind of sounds kind of needy, in a good way. And it's and I'm sure everyone feels like that sometimes. So it's a really cool tune, and has this wonderful like 80s college radio crescendo. I think that's probably Kramer playing the other lead line, but from their very cool record On Fire, my next tune was When Will You Come Home by Galaxy 500.
I don't know exactly where the term dream pop originated, or what really went into that, but Galaxy 500 would seem like exactly the type of sound that would make me think of that term. So if it didn't come directly from them, then it should have really.
Yeah, there's something about the vibe specifically of this record, like it's kind of like this tape stretched kind of warble. And if you read some of the history of these recording sessions, especially in Dean Warham's very well written memoir, Black Postcards, maybe that is the case. From what I understand, some of these tunes were recorded and then played back at a lower pitch for Dean Warham to sing, and then sped back up, putting Dean Warham's voice a couple of pitches, or a part of a pitch, higher than it normally would be.
Nice insight. Yeah, it really evokes that sort of feeling, like that just sort of half awake, maybe 3/4, or maybe a quarter awake, but mostly asleep. It really I don't know. It fits that term perfectly. Like I don't get too wrapped up in this is in this genre or whatever. You know, like where it fits or needing to categorize things. But the Galaxy 500 just basically personifies that term. I think.
Yeah, really cool tune. Great vibe to it. And yeah, I think that you really just from knowing you from way back and looking at the side B compilation you put together, yeah, it's a healthy disregard or irreverence for genre. So, speaking of which, what's your next tune?
My next tune. So at least musically, things picking up a little bit. The mood maybe not so much. But my next song is "She Thinks I Still Care," of course, by George Jones. Uh, Taking the lyrics at face value, maybe not an unrequited love song, but you definitely have to read between the lines. It's all about denial. Just because I haunt the same old place where the memory of her lingers everywhere. You know, um, it does get a little bit explicit when he says, "Just because I'm not the happy guy I used to be." It's just really somebody trying to talk that feeling down, but the mood is, he's obviously still hung up on whoever this is.
Such a
Um,
good tune, like classic 70s country,
60s.
60s. Oh, I'm sorry. Um, so yeah, George Jones, Johnny Paycheck. There are a lot of just uh, like honky tonk jukebox tunes like this one that really do something for me. And here in the Bay Area, there used to be a great band called the Seducers who played all these played all these tunes in the various dive bars of the Bay Area. Great pedal steel, and they used to play at the Riptide on the Taraval line over by Ocean Beach, and then the Riptide burned down, and I haven't really heard much about them since. So wish that didn't happen. Hope those guys are doing good.
Yeah, and this song goes back to all the way back to 1962, actually. Another good version that I like a lot. I don't think it's on Spotify, so you might have to search elsewhere. But the Blue Ridge Rangers, an album by John Fogerty in 1973. He did a cover of "She Thinks I Still Care" that I also think is really great. You know, um, Definitely worth checking out. Definitely worth hunting down.
Oh, cool! Thank you. I'm gonna look for that.
Just not on Spotify.
Probably not on Spotify, but so want to go to kind of a weird choice from a weird album. Um, so coming from "When Will You Come Home" by Galaxy 500, I think we're going to go into "Country Feedback" by REM, which has a great vibe to it as well. Kind of
Pretty down.
yeah, like a kind of a late night demo, maybe a take one, and really the big refrain is it's crazy what you could have had. Um, really great song from an album that even if you are a big REM fan, which I consider myself to be like a medium big REM fan, you kind of maybe skip over this one. This is the Losing My Religion and Radio Song album. Um, but I think I've mentioned you, and maybe I've even like made you do this back in the day in college. Is if you put this album on and you start at track 3, which is low, and then play it through, it becomes like a really moody, introspective album that uh, has a lot of spontaneity to it. I think that knowing a little bit about the band biographically, but not really a lot about this album in particular, sounds to me like a handful of other cool albums in the collection where the band knew that they had the hit, and then the next thing that they knew is they had to, get the rest of it together for deadline. And I think Out of Time is a reference to that. They're out of time. They're out of recording time,
Yeah,
and
maybe.
and so you end up with a collection of really cool songs that maybe if they had a little bit more time wouldn't have ended up on the record. So Endgame, Texarkana, Country Feedback, Low. These are pretty simple songs, kind of stand out as being different in their discography. But I think Country Feedback really captures a lot of the vibe of this record, which is about them dealing with superstardom and Michael Stipe kind of dealing with being, like a kind of lonely guy, and it really comes through in this tune.
Yeah, the songs that you mentioned as being the those songs would have sounded totally at home on Automatic for the People, but on this album, this album just there's a hodgepodge sort of quality to this album, which like there definitely are songs I really like on this album, but it's hard for me to think of it as an album I like. It's an album I think is okay, but yeah, if it didn't have Shiny Happy People on it, maybe if it didn't have Radio Song, although I like KRS One, this song doesn't make a lot of sense to me though.
In So coming at it from an industry perspective, since I'm put out records and stuff, the industry term is lumpy. Kind of makes for a lumpy running order. So yeah, do yourself a
Like
favor.
that oatmeal.
Exactly, yeah. So do yourself a favor sometime. Um, Sit down with this record and start on track 3, and you'll love it. I've forced a number of people over the years to do this experiment with me, and thank you all for your patience. Hope you're not
Yeah.
still mad.
Country Feedback is definitely a fine selection from this though. Definitely wouldn't argue with that. That might be my favorite song on this album, actually. Have a difficult relationship with that album though, but do love that song.
Understood.
All right, so I think you can say this is where things lighten up as much as they're going to lighten up on my side of the mixtape. The Modern Lovers, Jonathan Richman, and Dignified and Old. Love this song. Like a lot of the Jonathan Richman songs I love the most. There's musically it's great, but also it's just this idea like nobody thinks like this. Only Jonathan Richman thinks like this. But basically, the premise of the song, like many other Jonathan Richman songs, is that his love for someone is not returned. The phone call. Like the girl will never call him back, but he has a plan, and the plan is to age, I guess, because like she's not into me now, but one day I'm going to be dignified and old, and
Right.
then she'll come around to me.
Yeah.
It's
When Jojo's like a silver fox, it's
That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
uh,
He's really committed to the long game here.
time bandit.
Yeah, it's just it's so Jonathan Richman. There's just absolutely nobody's brain that works like this.
I've seen it. Yeah, Jojo is not from here. He just operates
He just
differently.
exists here.
I love that guy. I've seen him 5-6 times. I'll see him again. Um, always a joy to be in his within the field of his aura.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, I feel like you kind of grabbed a tune from my side of the tape. Feels maybe we should engineer a trade, but
Well, like you said, there's no hang-ups about genre here on my side. So I didn't, like I'm not, I'm putting things into a thematic context, but not really anything beyond that.
You've arranged those records autobiographically.
Basically, there are two qualifications for my side. Um, yeah, it is. I guess in some sense it is autobiographical. Thematically autobiographical. Sure, I've lived a lot of these songs. I just didn't write them. Um, but yeah, basically, it has to be songs about unrequited love, and I have to like them a lot. Those are the qualifications.
Very good. I totally agree with your terms. And so yeah, coming from you're like totally upbeat tune. I think the next tune that I have is probably the biggest downer and kind of slowest song maybe on my side, which is one of my absolute favorite records from uh when was this album from, like 2010, 2012, the album Tramp by Sharon Von Etten. And the big standout track on that record for me is Give Out, which is just very haunting, spare song with just like this glissando in the vocals that'll just, the hairs stand up on your arm. Uh and yeah, some of the vignettes in this tune, the scene that she sets up, it really sticks in my mind. There's it's like the character is gathering up the courage to, she's like squeezing her palm and she's gonna gather up the courage to put her hand on someone's knee. I thought that was such a cool lyric, and one of those minor triumphs, but a triumph nonetheless.
Yeah, and I have a little story that about Sharon Van Etten that is maybe somewhat fitting for Valentine's Day. I guess like certainly this is not is the term requited love. I guess this is not a story of requited love or anything like that, but as close to it as I think I can ever hope to be. Where a few years ago, I think maybe like 10 years ago at this point, I saw Sharon Van Etten at Pitchfork and decided I would take a picture and post it on Instagram of the concert going experience, and captioned it, "I am deeply in love with Sharon Van Etten."
You can't lie.
Yeah, because it was so overpowering that I couldn't deny it. I think maybe later the same day, or maybe it was the next day, I saw that my post was liked by Sharon Van Etten, and I'm not going to try and put on any false airs that she was.
The tour bus was outside.
Yeah, she wasn't getting her courage up to put her hand on my knee or anything like that for sure, but it felt really good to have that liked by Sharon Van Etten. So
Yeah, that's so cool. And that's one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is, even if it is a artist that is nationally known, the scrappiness of how you promote yourself is very personal. And I always want people to keep that in mind when they're about to say something, kind of snarky or cutting um, people, because in this sphere, because the dollars that you pull in from streaming from Spotify are not really they're not really there. So a lot of these people are working their own social media and that kind of thing. So that's really cool that you guys were able to connect like that.
yeah, and even if that had never happened, I would still be a big fan. I think she's great. Love this song, love the vocals. In general, just love her songs and vocals, and I want to say, I'm not sure if I have this correct, but the harmonies that she does, I'm not sure if I have the right person. I did a little bit of research because I wanted to get the name of the other Heather Woods Broderick, who I think is the member of her band that she does the harmonies with. Um, the harmonies are amazing between those two,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and yeah, just absolutely infectious.
Wow. Yeah, cool. A great band. And then um like where and then your next tune is one that I haven't heard before that I really ended up liking.
Oh yeah, okay. So my next tune is not one of the big hits by Otis Redding, and like I don't think for any reason other than it was not recorded at Stax. I believe this was recorded at Muscle Shoals and not released on Stax. I think it just kind of surfaced posthumously, but just really one of my favorite Otis Redding songs, and it's "You Left the Water Running." You can find it on various Otis Redding compilations. Just Otis Redding is always great. Like I don't, like you can't sing the phone book, but if Otis Redding sang the phone book, I think I would find it very engaging. And yeah, this is not the easiest. Like this is on Spotify, but not the easiest track to pin down, and it's definitely worth doing. Like I put it up there. I maybe put this as a top 5 all time Otis Redding song.
Nice. Yeah, real deep cut and really cool tune. Thanks for that, Flick.
Sure,
Speaking of
anytime.
deep speaking of deep cuts, uh Roland S. Howard. Wanna throw that name out there? No?
Yeah, no, I'm I'm listening.
Oh, okay. Well, Roland S. Howard, one of the very best indie electric guitarists that you've probably heard, but maybe you don't, but know by name. But Roland S. Howard was in Boys Next Door, who became the Birthday Party, who kind of more or less changed into the Bad Seeds. Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. So he had a really, you know, interesting life filled with lots of, breaking up his own bands and forming new ones, like Those Immortal Souls. And starting out and throughout his career, he was kind of haunted by what I understand from the documentary about his life, which I think is called Autoluminescence. Thanks, Gavin. Uh, the first song that he wrote, he was about 16. He wrote a song called Shivers, and it's been covered by a bunch of people. And I was looking for his original. I'm not even sure there is an original. There's kind of early Boys Next Door version of it with Nick Cave singing it, which doesn't sound right. But the best version I found that you can easily listen to is a cover by Courtney Barnett. Really spare, interesting cover with that really does the song justice. Courtney Barnett, who our listeners will remember from our last show, we did a "Make You Love Me" tune talking about ABBA and Courtney Barnett.
Yeah, and her version was originally featured on a Third Man Records 7-inch, which I have a couple of copies of, and
Of course,
I agree. What's that?
of course you do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. I've heard a handful of versions of this song, and it is my favorite. Divine Fits also covered this on I think the only Divine Fits album.
Huh. Okay, I'll look for that.
Yeah, but yeah, Courtney Barnett. Yeah, yeah, she's great. I could go on about Courtney Barnett, but I did a lot of that earlier this week, so maybe I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough.
She's one of my favorites, though.
She's a real she's a good one, and still looking for that Harmony H59 on eBay. So with the white selector switch, guitars.
Yeah, you're not the only one who wouldn't mind having one of those.
So from Courtney Barnett, we go to your next tune, which
Yeah,
I also was not super familiar with. So thanks for that.
yeah. So this isn't a single or anything, but certainly a well-known album. Derek and the Dominoes from the Layla album, which is the only studio album by Derek and the Dominoes. Uh, I looked away. You know, the album, of course, was an album that Eric Clapton worked on as, I guess, Derek of Derek and the Dominoes. I don't know if officially that's the case.
It would be
But,
even more covert if he was one of the Dominoes.
yeah, I know exactly. Possibly the case. But for now, I'm going to assume that he was Derek. He was the front man, and
Well, we're just gonna have to disagree on some stuff every once in a while.
okay, so he was Derek or one of the Dominoes. Jury's out. Jury's out on that. But the album was an album that basically came out of his love for George Harrison's wife. Um, George Harrison was his best friend, and I think remained his at least one of his best friends throughout his life. But there was this issue he had where he was madly in love with somebody that he felt he couldn't have, because it was wrong. And that's basically what this album comes out of. And so Unrequited for more than one reason, really here. But yeah, the opening song of the album is "I Looked Away," and that's the song that I chose for this list. Musically, it is a little bit more upbeat. Lyrically, pretty downbeat. Basically, the scenario in the song is that it's somebody just taking off, just running away from you, and when you're not looking. But yeah, I mean, this whole album fits the subject matter.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. I don't recreationally end up listening to Eric Clapton side projects very often.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd class this as a side project, even though it isn't by his name. It is to me, it's the best thing that he ever did. So there is that. But yeah, it wasn't so much a diversion. I think it was the biggest thing going for him at the time.
I want to say Derek is probably like the drummer or maybe one of the session guys.
Or the producer, or
I don't know. We'll pick this one up.
the A&R guy.
Yeah, who knows? So yeah, we're gonna transition, as many people do, from Derek and the Dominoes to the Go-Betweens. Got kind of a nice 1-2 Triple J transition in on my side of the tape between Courtney Barnett and Go-Betweens, two really important Australian artists. This is a tune called "To Reach Me" from Liberty Bell and the Black Diamond Express, which for a lot of people might be the best Go-Betweens record especially from their early incarnation. And it's a little bit, it's not exactly a narrative song in the easiest way, but one of the really cool things about Go-Betweens for me is that they kind of captured this feeling of being like a really bookish young kid and not really knowing that you're really maybe ready for adult stuff like romance. And so lots of like, you can kind of see in a lot of the lyrics, a lot of like one-sided letters, written and posted and maybe without a return address, that kind of thing. And and this is a good embodiment of that vibe. So yeah, To Reach Me by the Go-Between. So do you know this record, Liberty Bell and the Black Diamond Express?
I don't, but I did listen to this song today. So I do, I know a bit of Go Betweens, and I put together an Australian playlist a while back. I'd have to check to see what I have from them, but I know they're represented on that list.
Okay, yeah, one of my absolute faves for any of our listeners out there. If you could time travel back to Saturday the 13th, you will hear a very neat live set from Robert Forster on, oh, you're going to have to look for it. It's on German radio, guys. Can't speak German. Yeah, anyway, great story, Mark, but off to you, Sean.
Okay, all right. My next song, any excuse to have the replacements on a playlist for me.
Of course, of
Uh,
course.
but yeah, one that fits the bill all too well is Skyway. I think like to me one of the all time songs on the subject. Basically, maybe not everybody is familiar with what a skyway is. It might be something that is more something you would see in colder climates, like the Twin Cities of Minnesota. But basically, what it is a walkway that connects buildings in the downtown area, so that you can avoid walking on the sidewalk and walk between buildings in a place that is maybe heated or at least not completely susceptible to all of the elements of the outside. And what the song is about is walking around in the skyway and then seeing somebody that might be the love of your life, but they're down there on the sidewalk while you're up there, and there's no way of connecting with them. There's no way to make them notice you. Um, Sometimes you feel protected when you're confined like that. But this is a situation where it's really that you're uh, just cut off from everything. And cut off from what might be your true love.
Yeah, I really like this song, and there's that line in the tune about I don't know it exactly, but it's like I fell asleep in my dumb hat and gloves, something like that.
My stupid hat and gloves at night. I lie awake, wondering if I'll sleep, wondering if we'll meet out in the street. Is that?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, really, really cool, kind of invocation of it's so cold that Paul Westerberg is wearing hat and gloves to bed. I kind of had and I hate to rickroll anybody with this, but the picture in my mind when I think about that lyric is the Bernie Sanders with his mittens at inauguration. uh, but yeah, and I know how much of a Replacements fan you are, and so I kind of hesitated to put any replacements on my list because I was pretty sure that you were going to put either Answering Machine or Within Your Reach, which Within Your Reach being maybe an overplayed replacement song, but it's still just really, really good.
Yeah, I'm certainly not going to knock overplaying of any replacement song, but yeah, Skyway is the one that I think of those three hits the hardest for me. I just like I can really picture that in my mind of just you know uh, watching what your life could be walking on the sidewalk, but you have no way of making that connection.
And I think the arrangement of it is really, really cool. Um, it's pretty much just acoustic guitar, and
Yeah.
then um, let me see the exact. It's like half a bar at the end. the last two notes, there's a cello.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk about less is more, that's that's definitely not Wonderwall, right?
Yeah, and I think you really have to credit Jim Dickinson who produced that album. He did such a great job with that album, and uh, and like maybe the going the horns on "Can't Hardly Wait" might be polarizing for some people, but I think he did such a great job with that too. I don't know. I really I think that that's the best produced replacements album there is, for maybe by a long shot.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird time to be them in terms of studio production.
Right? Yeah.
Um, I like this run of songs that you have, and I think the next like two really kind of go together um, for me. So if you want to, do you want to just talk about those, and then we'll hop back over?
Okay. Yeah, because I have a couple extra songs on my list, so to even things out, yeah, I can double up right here. So my next two songs are "To Love Somebody" by the Bee Gees and "Sleepless Nights" by Graham Parsons and Emmylou Harris. Or no, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. "The Sun Ain't Gonna Shine Anymore" by the Walker Brothers and "To Love Somebody" by the Bee Gees. Okay, so those were the two that you're
Yeah,
referring to.
yeah.
All right. Yeah, so they do kind of go together pretty well. I mean, they're roughly from the same, might be from the same year. I'm not sure. But yeah, the Walker Brothers, Scott Walker, of course.
Scott Walker, of course. That's like the compilation album
That's right.
waiting to
I'll have
happen.
to.
It's like
I'll
really,
have to be. I'll
yeah,
be the curator on that one.
yeah. I mean, you hear that voice, and it's like Scott Walker, of course.
Right, and yeah, his voice does so much here, and it has that great wall of sound production to it. It's just Scott Walker did a lot of great things, but is this is my favorite one. Um, it's totally a downer, so it fits my list to a T. But but yeah, I mean, I love the arrangement, love the production, love his voice on this. It just all so perfect, and and it certainly is a downer, but there is kind of an uplifting, that the chorus has kind of an uplifting feel to it, nonetheless. So there's something about that just works, where um, it picks you up and then it lets you down. Just I don't know. I guess it's a roller coaster. It's like the Large Dipper,
The Giant Dipper.
the
Yeah.
giant. Okay.
Yeah. I pick up on that with this record or this song a lot. Where if you were to hand off the backing tracks and the lyric sheet and the vocal to, it could easily be like a Motown song. And
Hmm.
even in the chorus is just like such a cool upbeat chorus. And then Scott Walker comes back in, and it's like Scott Walker, of course, that creepy baritone doing his creepy baritone thing. And to think that, that's another contextual thing that I like about the Walker Brothers is that they were really big. There was that period of their career where they were kind of like a teen band, like they were being chased around on the street by ravenous, screaming teenagers. And then you hear his voice and kind of like, and later in his musical journey, you get the influence of like Jacques Brel, and then the really super creepy but infinitely interesting solo records. Yeah, Scott Walker, what an interesting guy. Rest in peace, buddy.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean the he had the teen heartthrob thing going on, but wasn't really about that, and definitely more about musical exploration than being the heartthrob.
I think I get almost sometimes like a Eurovision vibe from his vocal delivery, which I think is really interesting. Um, like he sings like a Russian crooner who's just entered a Eurovision song in like 1966.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just Fire Saga talking, but you know. Anyway, and then to transition into your next
The
song,
Mo
which is
Bee Gees. Yeah, yeah. For some people, it's all about the disco Bee Gees. For me, it's all about the mopey Bee Gees and to love somebody. So a year ago, we did a Valentine's Day show, which was called "How Can You Mend a Broken Heart," and of course featured that song, featured the Al Green version. My playlist featured the Al Green version, and I think it ended with the Bee Gees version or vice versa. I don't remember. Um, so I had to decide whether it was too much Bee Gees. Every year at this time, am I going to have the Bee Gees on my list? The answer is yes,
yes, of
because
course it's yes. Yeah.
that's right. Because to love
It's,
somebody is perfect.
it's yes, yes, please.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So more and more. To love somebody is a great song. Looking this up on Wikipedia, I'm seeing what the cover of the 45 was, and I don't really think that that's a good 45 cover. It doesn't,
Oh, I gotta look
especially
this
doesn't,
up. You're teasing me with this.
it really doesn't represent the song very well. But
Oh, this is so good. This is almost as good as that Hepcats
I know,
LP. Yeah, I
I
love
know.
it. It's like if the Bee Gees were on a cereal box, like if they had their own like
You're right.
proprietary like 80s sugar cereal,
Or,
this would be the
or,
cover.
or maybe like a promo picture for a bad 60s sitcom or something.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, there's so two.
Yeah. So, what could have been as far as the Bee Gees TV show? But yeah, so many great versions of this song too. The Flying Burrito Brothers, Graham Parsons, of course, and the Flying Burrito Brothers covered this on "Dim Lights, Thick Smoke, and Loud, Loud Music." Nina Simone did a great cover of it. Oh, Wikipedia is reminding me that Hank Williams Jr. Covered this as well. You wouldn't expect that, and
I know the Janis Joplin version probably the most.
yeah, yeah. So just going through the list, the ones I mentioned, and Roberta Flack, Michael Bolton. I never want to hear that version. Billy Corgan.
No, 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 no.
You're right. Rod Stewart.
Oh, no, no.
Uh, the Animals. That could be pretty good. Rod Stewart. I think the thing about Rod Stewart, if I remember this right, I don't remember his version, but I think it is from the early era of Rod Stewart
Okay.
before.
We can let that go then. Yeah, that's probably pretty good.
Yeah, but I might be wrong about that. I'll have to check that out. I don't remember his version very well.
So,
If at all.
Rod, if you're listening right now, our number
Get
is
yeah.
1-800 left of the dial.
I would say if you're listening right now, remember that you're one of the faces and remember what that was like. But I'm pretty sure he remembers. It just I don't know because when you see like recent there was like a recent Rod Stewart live album where he did a lot of that faces stuff and a lot of the good early stuff. So I think he's well aware of how good he once was, but it doesn't seem to matter.
The only thing that matters is how he feels about himself. So, Rod, as long as you're happy, I'm happy, buddy.
You do you.
That's right. That's right. So, transitioning from Rod Stewart, we have the Buzzcocks, which is okay, kind of scratch
Oh,
the needle.
Very good. Okay, so this is the late edition, and I totally commend you on the late edition here.
Yeah, I got to work on my end game, you know, and for those who were around in the mixtape era, um, you get the end game is key. You gotta, you know, you gotta keep your powder dry. You gotta keep your rock and roll suicide kind of day in the life type tunes for your other mixtapes. But we're kind of closing in on the last few tunes on this side, and you can't really make a Valentine's Day mixtape without ever fallen in love with someone you shouldn't have fallen in love with by the Buzzcocks, from Singles Going Steady and compilation of think the 45 singles from 1977 maybe to 1980, which Domino Records informs me are being released as a box set. So if you're interested in the pre-order, you can find that, I'm sure. But yeah, really cool tune. Punk rock, you know, three chords and the truth, as they say. Really, really wonderful tune.
Yeah, but definitely no other punk rock song really like this song. It's a lot more personal, I think, than any other punk song that I know of.
And that's why the Buzzcocks are really fun, because I think that they do have some. I'm not sure I would say like Motown and their DNA, but they are aware that they're writing these really cool pop songs, and I think that in a lot of the work of their contemporaries, you know, like Sex Pistols, Clash, there aren't that many bands that are okay talking about how they feel, man. You know, I think that there's
Right.
this idea that it has to be very obtuse, you know, whether like Wire, I think, obtuse and arty, and it's fine if they end up with that genuinely, but I feel like it's not cool to write just like a straight up love song if you're the Clash at this point in time. So, uh,
Sure.
good thing the Buzzcocks were there
Well,
to step in.
Mick Jones probably could, but Joe Strummer maybe not.
Yeah, it would have gotten vetoed, you know. I think the famous story about Mick having a song. He's like, I think this one's pretty ready. It's called "I'm So Bored with You," and you know, kind of a love song. And Joe Strummer was like, no, that's the love song. It should be "I'm So Bored with the USA."
Right. One thing I'm realizing now, though, I do love this selection. I'm glad you added it, but it did take the place of "Kangaroo" by Big Star, so I do need to mention that.
Yeah, we had some "Kangaroo" by Big Star is one of the standouts for me on kind of their Lost album, which is called Third in a lot of editions. The other title is "Help Me Out, Flick."
Sister Lovers, and it was Sister Lovers because Alex Chilton and Jody Stevens, the drummer, were both dating the Aldridge sisters.
Anyway, yeah, really cool tune. Kind of a similar song in terms of the setup for me as "Give Out" by Sharon Von Etten. Um, you know, seeing someone across the room, wondering what's up with that person, and also something kind of in common with Country Feedback in that Kangaroo has a very demo magic feel to me. Although from what I understand, it's like a very well put together studio tune.
Yeah, according to the producer Jim Dickinson, it was very very crafted as opposed to it just turned out like that.
Yeah, props to Big Star for sure. And closing in on the end of your side of the tape.
So yeah, you have one more song. So let me see my penultimate song here. Sleepless Nights by Graham Parsons and Emmylou Harris. I guess I let the cat out of the bag on that one a little bit ago. But originally, this was an Everly Brothers song. I'm no real problem with that version of it, but Graham Parsons and Emmylou Harris, their harmonizing is just all time magic to me. And it just doesn't really get any better than on this song. And I know I've said heartrending and gut wrenching so many times tonight. This really though gets you to the core, gets you to the core of your soul, and yeah, just deep down hurt, deep
It's
down.
a punch in the soul guts,
Right.
as they
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. But yeah, it just Graham Parsons, one of my all timers, and
GP, yeah.
yeah, just love this song. Really, not one of his most well known, but it should be.
I really like this song, and I've got my passing familiarity with Graham Parsons, especially with his tenure in the Byrds. But yeah, I really, really loved hearing this song, and the harmonies are very, very spectacular.
Thank you, and I appreciate your compliment for my selection.
Of course, you're a serious dude from way back. I feel like there's some unity in that song, and then I think this is probably maybe the only tune with two vocalists on it on my side, which is Heavy Seas of Love by Damon Albarn. I think you and I are probably on different levels of fandom for bands like Blur and Gorillaz, The Good, Bad, and the Queen, and some of the other Damon Albarn side projects. But this is
Not,
no?
I would say not exactly. I'm definitely more heavily into Blur than the other stuff, but I wouldn't say different levels though.
Ah, okay, good to hear. We can nerd out
Yeah.
again.
Oh, sure.
And this is the closeout tune from his 2014 solo record. And I think if you start off listening to it, you'll quickly put together that is not Damon Albarn singing, but Brian Eno, who, aside from his first 4 records, kind of retreats from being a vocalist, which is too bad. He has such a distinctive voice. This is not maybe a new metaphor that Heavy Seas of Love, it's scary out there and, might make you seasick. But this is such a cool standout tune, and hearing Damon Albarn and Brian Eno sing together, just a real joy, and brings together a lot of the kind of the things aren't going right love song vibes from some classic Blur for me.
Yeah, and I wasn't familiar with this song, but so there's some ground that I have to cover with Damon Albarn post Blur stuff, or aside from Blur stuff. Not as familiar with that as I am with the Blur catalog, so it'll give me something to do.
It'll give you something to do, and I think it's a really cool way to end the side of the tape. And if you don't have that last killer track on your mixtape that you're gonna send out to that special somebody, then you're just not doing it right.
Yeah, well, my Big Finish has a Big Finish on it, and if nothing else, I think it's a good way to close out because of the crescendo at the end of the song. But also, just this song is a standard bearer for this subject matter, and I'm talking about "Crying" by Roy Orbison, which you're going way back here, but you you have to, I think, in this case. It really doesn't this is the ultimate song in more ways than one. It really the high, the high falsetto, the beautiful high falsetto of Roy Orbison singing this painful song, and then the big finish at the end, the big crescendo. It it might be on the nose, but I don't care because it's a perfect way to close out.
It's a really cool tune. I love one of my genres that I end up going back to a lot is pre-Elvis, or I'm sorry, pre-Beatles rock and roll, and Roy Orbison being a huge part of that. And just this tune and many others, you're just reminded that Roy Orbison was superhuman. He was not a normal guy. The notes that he's able to hit in this song, the human body shouldn't be able to do that, but his did. And I'm glad that the tape was running when it did.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's my list. Quite unrequited Flicks of Valentine's Day list, as you'll see it on our LOTD Pod Spotify page. And Richard, I suppose I should amend mine to being side B, and then quite unrequited.
Yeah, mine is side A, but like anyone knows who had the tape deck in their Ford Festiva, it's kind of arbitrary which one is played first. So yeah, this has been really fun. Flick, like we've talked about. I don't think I've made any effort into putting together any sort of mixtape like this since I was probably like 19. So the kind of grown up 40-year-old happily married guy out here. So thank you, because it's such a rich genre that a lot of my favorite tunes kind of fall into, and I just haven't really strung them all together, and it was really fun. Thank you. And happy Valentine's Day to my cats and my wife, Susan. No, my wife, Susan, and our cats.
Yeah, and I'm kind of I don't have so many Valentine's Day shout outs. You had to work a little bit harder at this list than I do, and it's not just because you haven't maybe made a mixtape in a while, but because you have the happy home situation, and like I'm maybe living the list a little bit more, but you had to put in a little extra effort, and I commend you for it.
Thank you. It was really hard, and I appreciate you recognizing. Yeah, and you sure there's no one you can give the shout out to your, whoever. I don't want to put you on the spot, but the Starbucks barista that you chat with every once in a while, like give us something, Sean.
Quarantine. It's I don't even have that because of quarantine. I will say happy Valentine's Day to my dog Emmy Lou. Because that is who I'm sharing my life with right now. So,
well, you made a good choice. Emmy Lou's a good dog.
That's right. Very good dog. Yeah. So but love putting together lists like this. As painful as it might be, but painful in a good way. I think it's. I don't know. I don't mind not having a Valentine's Day playlist that isn't all lovey-dovey.
It was really fun, good tunes, and Sean, remind me, what can our listeners expect on our next show?
So our next show is something that we haven't done before, and we're calling it Revisionist History. We'll be looking back at a couple of albums that to see whether or not we feel like they were treated fairly at the time, because they're albums that were maybe in some cases panned, or at least just not given the right sort of treatment in their day. And the first two albums that we're going to be discussing are Trans by Neil Young and their Satanic Majesty's Request by the Rolling Stones.
Wow. Yeah, those are albums that probably take another look at those.
Yeah, definitely in need of a re-examination.
Totally. Sean, it's always a pleasure. This is Richard in Oakland, California, and you've been listening to Left of the Dial.